Salte del closet, destápate. Así que hoy vamos a hablar de Residente TT
Yeah,
y
man,
de
fill
su,
me in on what's been going on with this beef with J Balvin.
oh yes. Así que real quickly, porque sé que lo discutimos un poco en otro episodio.
I want to ask you if you're taking it personal because he's coming out against a fellow Colombian. He's attacking your fellow Colombian.
Well, I have to admit that I did at first, because I mean it's not so much. I mean, yes, part of it is the fact that J Balvin is Colombian, and in some ways sort of represents for me the Colombian contribution to the genre, and more importantly, how the genre sort of came out of Colombia, in a more pop version for sure. The other thing was that I just saw it as such an uneven fight, right? When you think about Residente's ability to rap and to destroy any others, right? Because let's not forget that he's done this tracks before. I remember when he dissed Evie Queen, when he's dissed a bunch of other folks in the industry, and I know that's part of the culture of urban culture, of hip hop, of that type of reggaeton, of being of the genre. So yeah, so I think I also I took it personally, or I was offended by it, and also because I all along I always knew that J Balvin wasn't Residente. He's not Daddy Yankee. He's not Tego Calderon. He's just a Colombian who's been able to kind of get a foothold in the industry,
Well, I think
and that I
I
thought
liked him as an
he was doing it in a different way too.
I mean, I do appreciate him as an entertainer, but at the end of the day, most of these new guys are entertainers. I think Residente is one of the few that's left that's actually a lyricist that has a political, socially aware message. And if anything, if we can go based on what happened with hip hop, if anything, I think that J Balvin and his genre of music is probably going to have the last laugh here. Not immediately, but 5, 10 years from now. Because the type of music that Residente is putting out is the type of music that the mainstream will eventually not try to push as much. Because they always push more towards pop, towards watered down music, towards like, hip hop, mumbo jumbo rap, crappy rap, and all of the more militant, socially aware rappers, with the exception of Kendrick Lamar. All of those guys are really, they've been driven underground. So don't worry, I think J Balvin will have the last laugh here. I think his genre will probably ultimately be the one that wins out in reggaeton.
No, well, this is the surprising twist. Like, I don't want J Balvin to win, and I
Oh,
think part of it is, um, I mean, looking at the diss track, the Biz Rap Music Session Volume 49, and I think Residente starts it as his concern with the urban con el género urbano. So he's concerned that in some ways that's part of the reason that he came so hard on J Balvin. So I think for those who want to get a little bit more of the back and forth, as we remember, this beef started when J Balvin called for a a boycott of the Latin Grammys. Residente disagreed because there were so many other artists who were being recognized.
and we have a video where
And
we talked about that, by the way.
yes, when we talked about that, but then I think for those who want to get even deeper, Residente did a 2 hour and 45-minute interview with Molusco. He's a radio personality in Puerto Rico, where he kind of breaks down the lyrics and breaks down the beef. So to your point, the reason why Residente came so hard is because he's basically fighting for the soul of the genre, and for also for trying to trying to preserve the art behind it. And that's the thing. Like, I know that J Balvin, it's all about negocio socio, right? He says it, right? That's his motto. And I know even within this track, Residente talks about the difference between being an artist and being famous. So yeah, so I think for me, just being able to, yes, at first be taken aback by the this, but then to after sort of listening to the song, about hearing his explanation, Residente's explanation, I think respecting where he's coming from on this.
Yeah, I may have had a different opinion on this, maybe say 10 years ago, but I think over time, I don't really. It's not that I don't pay attention to this as much, but it doesn't really bother me as much if other artists start doing a type of music that others would consider, say, watered down or selling out to the industry. It just becomes a different form of expression. It's not right. So then you have your purists like Residente that want to diss them, that say you're not doing the authentic, you're not doing us a favor by doing this type of by taking reggaeton in this direction and so forth. But again, it's art and it's going to evolve. And just like gentrification, if the economic incentive is big enough, then just people are going to do it and they're going to take the art form in a different direction. And there's very little that we can do about it. It's almost like people that try to slow down or prevent their kids from engaging with technology, like cell phones and VR and all these other things. Like, it's gonna happen. You're gonna be surrounded by technology, and it's gonna take over your life. And I think with this, it's like, okay, yeah. So J Balvin is doing another type of, is taking the genre in a different direction. I don't really seem to have a big problem with that. Now the I do understand more or at least I can understand the beef that they had with the comments around the Grammy. I do recall we had the discussion on that, but at least this one right here, take us through some of these lyrics. I mean, I don't know if you've had a chance to put them to us within context of, like, what he really is trying to say regarding J Balvin.
Yeah, I mean, I think he breaks this song into three acts, and I think the first act, which is the one that you pulled up, just talks about his general concern about what's going on in the genre. And I think that in some ways, and Residente acknowledged this in the Molusco conversation, that it's not so much about J Balvin or Jose, but it's about what he represents, right? And the type of change that he's representing. And I think you can see in this first I guess estrofa or paragraph, you can kind of just see his Residentes. He's going deep, right? I mean, so he's talking about El Nilo. He's talking about, mientras hablo solo como Don Quixote. So he's quoting Cervantes on this. So you know that he's going deep, right? So he's showcasing his full gift, and then you can see como un brote antes de que se le hunda el bote, pero como siempre la mierda sale a flote,
Mhm.
right? So like this is that, like, oh damn, like, how do you go from talking about Don Quixote to la mierda sale a flote
I like
pretty
this one
quickly,
right
right?
here. Asomando la mirada como un cocodrilo en el río Nilo.
Exactly. So when you think about that kind of, he's probably seen El Rio Nilo, and he kind of, well, at least that imagery, right? That's a powerful image. But I think, going to your earlier comment, I think that he also explained that, you know, Jared Baldwin and artists like him who just buy views and are all about the promotion and about the promotion machine, it does impact him. I mean, not so much Residente now, but it does impact other people who are coming up, right? Because it's going to be more difficult for them to get paid because, because people are going to expect the type of numbers that that J Balvin is getting and some other artists are getting, and they're not gonna get paid as much, particularly when you talk about some of the ways that the current streaming industry is the financing within that. And I know we talked a little bit about this when we talked about the Joe Rogan and Spotify and the fact that artists, the folks who are bringing the years and the listeners are not getting paid fairly. So to your earlier comment, gentrification does have a negative impact on those communities, right? And ironically, right? So reggaeton, reggaeton, and that Afro, those Afro beats that have conquered the world are now becoming, are becoming
Com-
a hipster heaven, which I think we all can agree needs to be stopped,
Well, but
or
that was
it needs to be
inevitable. That
balanced.
isn't that similar to what happened with hip hop once it went mainstream and commercialized. And so, is he taking issue then with not necessarily with the content of his music, but with the way he's running the business of his music,
Yes, I
or
think that's
both?
a main point. Like that's a main concern that he has. But I think personally, I think J Baldwin also did the wrong thing and did the shitty thing by, when they had the whole beef with the hot dog.
Yeah.
Well, actually, before that, when that came, you know, Residente put his video. J Baldwin called him. They talked, and they agreed that they were just gonna leave it at that. But then J Baldwin put the picture of the hot dog, and Residente asked him to take him down, and he didn't, right? And it wasn't until they got by the time he got back to Residente, the that whole comment had gone viral, and because he was, trying to market his his merchandise, right? So in some ways, yes, like J Baldwin didn't keep his word, and then on top of that, he was trying to make money out of that episode. So I think that's one of the reasons why, uh, one of the many reasons why Residente came so hard on him.
Do you think there's gonna be a? Has there been a response from J Balvin?
I think I heard something that he said, but I obviously, I mean, how can you respond to Residente? I mean, you can try, but I think that I don't think that it would be it would be wise to do it. And the other thing that is funny because when this track dropped, apart from sort of the music, I mean the beat, and I think one of the other reasons why at first I was like, I mean you're accusing J Balvin of being racist, but here you are, light skinned Puerto Rican with an Argentinian producer,
Mm-hmm.
kind of criticizing this. But I do
Is he
think
referring
that
to that video with the dark skinned women in leashes?
yes, yeah, he
Yeah.
made a reference to that as well. But then something that I've shared with other people, like Residente, that same week, he had a video with Daddy Yankee, now Daddy Yankee, oh my God, with Don Omar, Flow Hijo de Puta, where he has it's not him, but they're dancers. There's like three male dancers on leashes. Um, and again, so for me, it's like, well, you're criticizing J Balvin about having women's in leashes, but then you on your video also have people of color in leashes
Yeah,
on
that's why it's
leashes.
so hard to
But
try to take that moral high ground because pretty soon you're gonna expose yourself as being hypocritical because you're
yeah,
not going to be able to live up to your own standards.
yeah, but at that same time, Residente, I know he's gone down to he's down for the indigenous cause. He's down for the African cause. Like I know that he's more aware about race and inequality and everything that happens not only in Latin America but across the world. And I think some of the comments that J Balvin, even before those incidents, that he said, I think there's a song where where he talks about, for me, no hay raza, no hay color. And it's like, how are you going to say there's no raza, right? Like, that's like this, that we're all equal type of
Mm-hmm.
um, argument that is also show him that he's not aware that there is race, and particularly in a very racist society like Colombian society is to say that racism is not an issue, or not to even acknowledge that race is
That's
an
the kind
issue.
of thing that you say when you have a lot of money and fewer problems.
Exactly. And then the other thing is, I know just this week Residente came up with a new song, This Is Not America, where he kind of actually really takes issue with the fact that Americans just think that America is just the United States, where it's a whole continent, right? It's a whole continent that has people, and it's pretty powerful video, pretty powerful lyrics.
Did he take a page
Nothing
book
beats the
from
taste.
Tigres del Norte because they have their song de América Yo Soy? I don't know if I mean
What is it,
I'm a
Alfred?
old school Mexican here, and so that's an old song. But yeah, they do have a song like that. I think it's from the 80s or from the 70s. So yeah, a
Yeah,
similar theme.
yeah, and in this video, he kind of shows some of the social unrest that happens in
Hmm.
Colombia too, because that was one of the criticisms that he also had about J Balvin and not standing up for what's going on, what was happening at the time, and is still going on in Colombia for against students and people who are trying to fight the corruption and all that stuff. So very powerful video. Well, again, this is kind of Residente, and again, to your point, like I don't expect all artists to do this type of of art and music and song. But in some ways, I know that actually within this song, this is not America. He actually mentions Gambino. So I think from my perspective, this is kind of a response, or maybe the Latino lens to the This Is America song.
I find similarities here with what Residente is doing, similar to what Tupac was doing back in the mid '90s, where he would come out with these powerful songs like "Keep Your Head Up" or "Dear Mama," and you would listen to it and you'd say like, "Oh my God, this guy is amazing. He could be such a great leader in the African American community. He has such powerful lyrics, such a powerful message." And then his next track would be "Shoot 'Em Up," a diss against Biggie, and you'd be like, what kind of fucking ignorant shit is this, right? And it was disappointing, I guess, for me because I wish that Tupac would have outgrown that phase, and I think he would have outgrown that phase eventually and focus more on just the social issues. But I feel like with Residente, I really appreciate his social critique and the message that he puts out there. But I wish that he would like somewhat detach himself from these beefs and just outgrow them and just let J Balvin be J Balvin and let him do whatever he wants in the music industry and let him do what he wants with the genre and just focus on your message. Like, outgrow these beefs. Is that oversimplifying it, or because he's such a smart guy and obviously he puts a lot of work into his art. Why does he need to waste his time fighting with other people that are taking the genre in a different direction or that don't treat reggaeton the art the same way that he does, because he has no control over it. This is like, like one time I asked my brother if I could upload a picture of him that he had taken a picture with, like, he was wearing a wife beater, he was wearing the Mexican sombrero, and he was drinking a beer, and it just looked like such a perfect picture for a meme to caption it and to put captions on it. So I said, hey, can I put it out there with a meme? And then he was like, well, I don't know. It's like, 'cause once you put it out there, it's no longer yours. And I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. Once you put something out into the internet, it's no longer yours. You lose control over it. And we didn't really know if other people were just gonna take that picture and do stuff with it that he wasn't going to appreciate. So it's the same thing with art. Reggaeton, it's out in the mainstream, dude. You guys have no more control over it. Others are gonna do with it what they want, and fighting them and trying to keep it pure or whatever, I don't think that that's gonna work because it hasn't worked with any other genre before.
True. And I think before answering in that, I think definitely let's acknowledge that recently we just celebrated the 25th anniversary of Biggie's life after death uh, album, and actually his timely death too. So um, it's it's crazy, right? When you think about Tupac, Biggie, and I think you're right to an extent. You're right, and I think that was one of the first reasons. My first reaction, like, why are you doing this? Like, it's not worth it, right? It's he just accept the fact that J Balvin has a very different business model than you do, and part of me was like, you're just jealous of his success and how he's been able to kind of get into fashion and do all these things. But at the same time, I now know that it's really about principle, and I think that for Residente as an artist, as somebody who is also collaborating with a bunch of unknown artists or a true artist, people who can barely make money, but they're still are playing, whether it's a traditional music or their music that they do because it's not as popular in the mainstream. Like he understands that you need to fight for that principle, like he about the art, and it's almost like a way to one sort of check that type of attitude and behavior, and also acknowledge that a lot of us also appreciate more of the art and the true form and the expression, and not so much what what the mainstream or what the media companies uh, throw at you, right? Because in
But
some ways, that was the thing with reggaeton, right? It was reggaeton wasn't in until it became in, and sort of people saw that, oh, we can make money with this, and let's make it so that we can sell it not only in the United States but across the world.
taking the art form to a different, more mainstream audience, and I suppose if you want to call it watering it down, doesn't that open the door for other artists that would not have otherwise been able to get in if it's like a easier, lower barrier to entry? Because, well, I don't really know actually. I mean, reggaeton, a lot of the famous artists don't really even have like lyrics that you could say are meaningful. It's just like dance music. I mean, Residente is one of the few that actually puts out their uh, lyrics that are deep and they carry a lot of weight. But how, I guess I'm not sure how the style that J Balvin is doing would close doors for other artists, because it's just an art form. Just others are going to be able to go in, whether or not. I mean, you could even argue that even people that are less talented are going to be able to get into it, just the same way with hip hop, where you have all these kids that just all you need is a good beat these days. You don't really need to be a good lyricist or have a good delivery. You just say a few words and you make it.
Yeah, and I think that that's true. I think that people can, yeah, certainly more people can get into the genre, and in some ways, as it becomes more mainstream, people um, can get into it. But then it's always going to be a new sound, a new evolution, and I think the problem is that because people are so focused on that shiny new pop thing, they're not going to be able to appreciate some of the other more raw content that's out there. I mean, eventually, maybe that it'll go through the same process that reggaeton went through, that salsa went through, that bachata went through, vallenato, cumbia, corridos, everything, right? Everything that sort of at first wasn't accepted then becomes an identifying part for the population. But I think that the other point that I wanted to make, which was really important. Oh, yes, now I remember that. It's funny because that then the other thing that Residente and I agree on is on Benito, on Bad Bunny, baby,
Yeah, what about him?
which is how much of an artist he is, right? And the fact that he kind of took the opposite route of Residente, right? Like he's been able to I think change the game and take reggaeton, take trap, Latin trap into a broader audience and still being himself. But I think also I think instead of just doing one Atrévete, the way that he described it is that he's done like 25 Atrévetes and now he's in a position where he can basically express himself artistically however he wants.
Mm.
Um, and I think the other point that that Residente made was the fact that the reason why J Balvin is is so popular now that was built on the work and the sacrifice of a lot of artists that came before him, right? So when you think of Bico C, or when you think of Tego Calderon, Daddy Yankee, of course, and others who kind of opened the way for an artist like him to be able to succeed, and which I know he's in some ways also opened a lot of doors for artists in Colombia, and now there's a whole school of Colombian reggaetoneros and reggaetoneras who are also influencing the culture both in Colombia and outside of it.
Yeah, well, I feel like that's true of any artist. You're always standing on the shoulders of those that came before you. So I'm sure that even that applies to Residente as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if I have any more to contribute here, except that I still feel that Bad Bunny's overrated.
Damn.
That's just me. Nobody cares what I think because I'm already beyond the age where it matters what I think or not. What matters is what 15-year-olds to 23-year-olds think about Bad Bunny. Maybe
Well,
maybe
and I guess
13-year-olds.
well, I think now the ones that can afford their ticket concerts too, the concerts to his tickets.
What matters is, yeah, what my 23, 24-year-old cousins think. And what they think is that they thought it was a good idea to drive all the way from LA to Portland to go see Bad Bunny. I don't know, where was he about a month or 2 months ago?
Seattle.
Yeah, they went all the way to Seattle to see him. So, yeah, that's what
See,
matters, not
that's
what I
what
think.
matters.
All right,
The
well,
kids are gonna be all right.
yeah, yeah. All right, let's wrap this up. Any closing thoughts?
I mean, if you haven't listened to the Pizza Rap Residente track, please do. I think just get cold Residente beer or your favorite drink and listen to it, enjoy it, and then also check out the new one, the This Is Not America. I think so much to think about both in the lyrics and in some of the imagery that he uses in that video. So go on and I mean, it's okay for you to continue to support mainstream artists, but don't forget about the folks in the streets coming up that are also have a message and art to share with you and the world.
That's right. Well said. All right. If you all out there enjoy our content, make sure to check us out. We are Brown Perspective. Estamos on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Nos vemos.
Ciao.